there has also been inner striving. And at the end, it became clear that either there is a spiritual world or not. And it will not be answered, this question, by somehow other than by myself. And to some extent, I came to the conclusion that I had to decide that there is a spiritual world. Otherwise, I will never encounter it. Yeah. So it's not that you can have this question all along and saying, I will wait when the spiritual world will show up. No, you have to say, okay, this hypothesis, I take it as given, and then I make my further steps.
That was Ueli Hurter, and you're listening to The Regenerative Journey.
From wherever we are, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia, recognising their continuing connection to this land, its waterways, the stars in the skies since time immemorial. We pay our respects to the elders, knowledge holders, and to all the generations of First Nations peoples who have nurtured their unceded sovereign lands for over 80,000 years and continue to do so today.
G'day, I'm your host Charlie Arnott, an 8th generational Australian regenerative farmer. And in this podcast series, I'll be diving deep and exploring my guests' unique perspectives on the world so you can apply their experience and knowledge to cultivate your own transition to a more regenerative way of life.
Welcome to The Regenerative Journey with your host, Charlie Arnott.
G'day, welcome back to The Regenerative Journey and welcome to the intro for my first virtual The Regenerative Journey podcast interview, celebrating 100 years of biodynamics in the world with Ueli Hurter, who is a biodynamic guru. He's a biodynamic rock star. He's going to be in the country pretty much a couple of days after you listen to this. I'm going to read this bit so I don't stumble over any of his credentials, but he's been the co-head of the agriculture section of the Goetheanum since 2010, currently sits on the executive board of the International Biodynamic Association. He's a native of Switzerland. He was actually in Switzerland when I interviewed him a couple of weeks ago now. It was sort of lovely, warm, sunny day there, and incredible, as we did note at the beginning of the interview, how it's there wasn't much of a delay, and wonderful that I'm now embracing the technology that's available to us to speak to my guests from the other side of the planet. He's completed agricultural apprenticeships in Switzerland, Germany, and France, and he has formerly served as president of the Swiss Demeter Association and as Swiss spokesman to Demeter International. As I said, he's going to be here only a couple of days after you might listen to this. It's the release of this. He's in Melbourne on the 7th of May. He's in Hobart on the 8th of May and the 9th. He's in Sydney on the 11th and 12th of May. He is going to be in Brisbane on the 13th and 14th of May and Adelaide on the 15th. If you go to www.anthroposophy.au, that's anthroposophyau.org.au/events. You will find all the details there. Get your tickets. Had a lovely chat with Ueli, and it was we talked about what Europeans think of biodynamics here in Australia. And we talked about all sorts of things. His life as per the charter of the podcast, where he grew up, how he became a farmer. He didn't grow up in a farming sort of situation. And we did talk about the significance of it being this 2024 100-year celebration anniversary of Rudolf Steiner's lectures, called the Agriculture Lectures, that you can find at any good bookstore online or, dare I say, Steiner bookshop. Lovely chats. Had a few technical issues before we actually kicked it off. We managed to get through them, and I trust you enjoy this episode with Ueli Hurter as much as I did interviewing him for the Regenerative Journey. Ueli Hurter, welcome to the Regenerative Journey, and welcome to my very first virtual interview for the Regenerative Journey, which has proved to be quite challenging already, hasn't it? And thank you for your patience.
Yeah. But even it's kind of miracle, yeah, that being on the other poles of the earth, that we can speak together.
And there's not much of a delay. And I almost feel like I'm there. You were mentioning you're in Switzerland at the moment. It is heading into spring. And I was going to be over in Europe this bit later on this year, but we've changed a few plans and I won't be. However, you are going to be out here in Australia very shortly. I will get to that, Ueli, but what I'd like to do is just sort of start with let's go straight to anthroposophy, because for those, to put things into context, before I sort of dig into your childhood and sort of how you got to somewhere where you are now, what you don't know what that is and what that means, because it's obviously a large part of your life and your purpose. Can you give us people a bit of a précis description of what it
anthroposophy
is? And why is it important to you?
Well, we start with biodynamics, huh? You call it regenerative agriculture, actually, and our name is biodynamics. One can say perhaps it's a phase or one version of regenerative agriculture. And biodynamics has a birth hour, a birth moment. It has not been evolving slowly. And this is now 100 years ago. And it has been a gathering on an estate in Germany at this time. Very challenging times, crisis as nowadays. And farmers, they had, bigger farms, and they struggled how to go into future. It was not that it has been, and they didn't see a way through the future, and they heard about Rudolf Steiner, and Rudolf Steiner was known to a certain extent in the German cultural sphere because he expressed on various themes as pedagogy, as medicine, and then also on agriculture. And his space to be able, let's say, to give inspiring contributions to these various themes is a new science, and he called it anthroposophy. And anthropos means man. So it's not natural science, where nature is the base. It's anthroposophy, where the man, human being, is the base, and it's not theosophy, which means that the gods are the base. Huh? So it's really based on the human nature, how we are, and by understanding the human being, then we can go further on and try to understand how is nature, how is earth, how is evolution, how is the social relations among us, and how also is the spiritual world. Yeah? And in this way, when anthroposophy means let's base our knowledge and our engagement on the human being, because he is the one which in somehow is the place where more earthly reality and more, let's say, spiritual reality they encounter. And in this way, biodynamics has the both sides. It's bio, it's organic, and it's dynamic, meaning more the spiritual side of doing agriculture, of farming, gardening, food questions, and so on. So anthroposophy is a kind of based on the Occidental path of knowing by clear mind, but going one step further. And this attracted me in my biography, searching for new horizons and for horizons which in some way I can relate with my thinking, and on the other hand, which opens doors in spaces and dimensions where the normal thinking has no access, meaning that, one has to train oneself then and, to open up for new dimensions. So anthroposophy in some way is a new step, I would say, in the way the Western world has to understand and to engage in our world.
So I guess it's a step, a significant step in our evolution. Would you say that, like the identifying or the not acknowledging of anthroposophy and that kind of that concept? I mean, that's been a positive for mankind, I trust.
Again, the question, please.
I was just saying that that is a for me it's a step. It's a step in our evolution. Like the human evolution for Steiner to have kind of put that on the table and said, this is a new way of thinking. This is about culture. It's about soul. It's about spirit. It's about mental. It's about physical. That contribution to mankind has been enormous.
And it's really this kind of, we don't have to abandon what we have been in, but it goes further on. So it's really an evolutionary, deepening and broadening of our concepts and of our view on the world. And the great thing of anthroposophy is that you can engage with. It's not a theory, it's really practical. It's so deeply practical. We know it by agriculture, but it's the same for our colleagues, which are teaching and which are healing people and artists and so on. So, and this is the proof, I would say, by the real practical world that there is reality even it's going, let's say, beyond what is the normal view by our pure sensitive world.
Well, let's go back to your childhood, because I'm interested to sort of understand the foundational, the foundational influences that then led you to, at some point in your life, no doubt, you looked at anthroposophy and decided that was the way you wanted to do, head in your life, or whether it was practices you picked up, biodynamics. I know you were involved with a wonderful farm in Switzerland for many years. Did you grow up on a farm? Were you born in the city and you had an urge to go farming? Where did it all start? Like where did you hit the ground running? Well, you mightn't have been running. You're probably rolling around for a few months before you ran.
No, I didn't grow up on a farm, not at all, but not in a big city either. We don't have them in Switzerland. But it was a middle-class family. I grew up with, we have been 6 in the family. And already my parents, it was a very open-minded, atmosphere at home, searching for, new horizons. And in some way, I would say the basic value and orientation of the education of my parents has been that we as children can freely look for our way. So this was really a very, very great gift. And when I have been young then, and I finished school, and the question has been either to go for studies, university or not, I choose to go not to university, but to go out of this kind of normal life. And we went to the mountains, and it's just the place I'm actually now. And yeah, we allowed ourselves to have 1 year off by asking ourselves, but yeah, what is the real ground we can build on? And in this year, being practically involved here with the mountain agriculture and by rebuilding or renovating the old house, there has also been inner striving. And at the end, it became clear that either there is a spiritual world or not. And it will not be answered, this question, by somehow other than by myself. And to some extent, I came to the conclusion that I had to decide that there is a spiritual world. Otherwise, I will never encounter it. Yeah. So it's not that you can have this question all along and saying, I will wait when the spiritual world will show up. No, you have to say, okay, this hypothesis, I take it as given, and then I make my further steps. And on this way, then I became a farmer, because farming has been, let's say, a kind of universal engagement for a better world. And in the same time, I became anthroposophist because, thinking and to have a kind of clarity in the thinking was the other striving. Yeah? So this have been the two drivers in my life. And in this way, then I took my further steps.
You could have gone to the mountains, experienced nature, started farming, and not accepted or believed in the unseen or the what did you call it? The natural world, that like conventional agriculture kind of doesn't, just dismisses, and it's a bit of an inconvenience. So you could have just gone and been a conventional farmer. But so what was the thing that made you sort of think there is something else? I need to look at it. Was there a person? Was there a book? Was there an experience that sort of made you just snap out and go, wow, this is something that you ended up, dedicating your life to?
Yeah, I would say, if you ask like this, it's multi experimental, but of course there are some key elements. And one of these key elements has been a person, and it's a handicapped person. Can you say this like this in Australia? Yeah, person
sure,
handicapped by birth. Yeah, and it has been the sister of my girlfriend at time, my wife actually. And so we have had access to this world of these handicapped people. And the question has been, but what is it? Yeah, you see the question to the human being in profound way. Yeah, and then with this question, we found a book wherein has been, let's say, the view that the envelopes of this person has been handicapped by incarnating, but not the center, not the core, not the individuality. This is not handicapped. It's a full person, but when it took its shapes, her shape, by taking a body, by incarnating, something went in a special way, and so it came out like this. And this view on the human being, that even, let's say, where we are not sure what is the human being face to face and working and sharing life with disabled people, there is to say that deep in this person there is a center, there is an I, which is fully, let's say, human in the full sense, yeah, as ours. And this has been for me a breakthrough for us, I would say, to have this kind of very profound view on the human being. And this book has been an anthroposophical book, and it has been a door opener to go further in this direction.
And yeah, so your view on life, your perception, I guess, the lens with which you look at the world would be very different to most people who wouldn't have had that experience. You had some insight. Is that fair to say? Like that person's disability or their handicap actually was in some ways a gift to you, that you then it sent you down the path you're on now, which dare I say is a wonderful thing, you know.
Yeah, really, I have to be so grateful to my destiny that conducted me like this. And yeah, this was not a hero, this person. Yeah, it was an anti-hero in our, let's say, society, which is about performance and so on. But it was a bright person, always good mood and so on. So also easy in some way to relate to, and in this way to have a kind of possibility to encounter the human nature in a special, let's say, personality, but in a profound way. Yeah.
And tell me, when did you first hear about Rudolf Steiner, or start reading his books, or start really diving deep into his life and his anthroposophy, and when did that sort of kick in? Was it when you were
it was somehow around
time?
me. Yeah, it was somehow around without that I really related to. And then after this year in the mountains, I took decision to make an apprenticeship in farming. And I visited organic farms and biodynamic farms. It was not clear. And the organic farm, it didn't work. These people has been, let's say, good farmers, but traditional farmers, and let's say motivated for organic, mostly in these times by a kind of deep Christianity, yeah. But this has been religious people in some way, yeah. And this was not possible for me. And then I also went to a biodynamic farm, and it was more or less chaotic on the practical farming side. But these people have been, striving for understanding life, nature, farming, and so on. And then I engaged there to do my apprenticeship. And my apprenticeship master, he was also a kind of philosopher, and it was not so far away from Dornach, where the Goetheanum is, and twice a week he went to a study group in the evening, and it was purely philosophical. And he allowed me to come with him, and this has been my introduction really to read Steiner by his very first books, where he is very clearly philosophical. And this, let's say, sharpness and coolness of well-shaped thinking, together with the working, the warm side of working in the days and And the studies in the evening, this has been for me, wonderful time.
And tell me about the farm in Switzerland, because I would love to know more about it. I'm sure our listeners would too, because from what I understand, it's quite, dare I say, the model farm, or just the combination of the use of biodynamics, food production, a culture. There's a number of different sort of layers of community there. Can you just tell us sort of what it is, what happens, and I guess how biodynamics has played a role in its nature?
Yeah. So just to how it came about that I have been on this farm, which the name is L'Aubier. It's in the French part of Switzerland. After my apprenticeship in the region of Dornach, then I went to Germany on the Dottenfelder Hof. This is a very famous place, and at the time it has been the place to be for biodynamics. And they just started a 1-year course, deepening course, and I have been part of the first edition, and it was a next step. And these bigger conditions in Germany really it was great for me, and I stayed there for 3 years. Then I went to Alsace. This is part of French. Near the Rhine, so not far away from on the border to Germany. And from there, then I looked for a farm. I had finished all my degrees, and I came then to this initiative L'Aubier, which was started 10 years ago. And it was about a biodynamic farm, a restaurant, and a shop, and then we built it on a hotel. And This was a kind of community I have been looking for. And I joined, and I have been responsible practically for the farm and for the cheese plant, but also strategically in the leading group of the whole. We have been 6 people there. And the special thing of this L'Aubier place is, of course, this activity, starting by the farm and then going on with the restaurant, the shop, and a kind of retreat center also. And so let's say the biodynamic impulse, it went through all these activities. It has, for example, been the most ecological hotel in Switzerland. We went twice, a kind of prize for this. But the other side has been associative economics, because it came about like this, that this has been started and then we went into constructions for our activities, and this is very expensive in Switzerland. We didn't have the money for. And the bank have not been, give loans to these young, a little bit funny people, no way. And so we established, and that has been one colleague of mine specifically, a kind of system that we call it direct financing, not via banks, but via direct. So we offered then shares and different tools that people could bring their money in order that we could work with it. And in the same time, we have had a structure that the money never could take the power. The power has always been with us, let's say the responsible people, the people with the vision, and the money has been coming in to serve this purpose, to serve this vision, and not to conduct and to take the power. So this combination of deeply being involved with cultivating nature, meaning biodynamics, and this bringing in the other activities, and the other pole, how to organize in the social sphere, in the economical sphere, in order that things can really become reality, and not remain, let's say, kind of dreams. This has been, let's say, the inner nature of Flobier, the combination of the both. Money and wheat, we called it in a certain epoch. Money and wheat. The gold in the money, and let's say the gold color in the wheat, in the corn.
And so there's a threefolding kind of structure there, I imagine. Is that fair to say? Is that how? I'm not sure what you call it over there, like that kind of a
you can call it like this. Of course. Then you came to the threefolding, but we didn't start with the theory of threefolding. We really started with, let's say, the challenges. No, let's say our initiatives. This brings you to challenges, and then we resolve the challenges. And by doing this, of course, we have been inspired by the ideas of Rudolf Steiner, and we have also always conducted anthroposophical study work. But it has been very near, let's say, to the practical work. So mostly we understood what we did when we have already done it, and we looked back. You know this, huh? You are farmer too. We often understand what we have done when we look back. The will goes ahead, and not the brain.
Well, I mean, that's where
the
greatest lessons are learned. I was just saying that's where the greatest lessons are learned, aren't they? Like,
absolutely.
They're only a failure if you haven't learned something. If you've learned something, then they're actually they're you gain something. And often it's the failures that, again, you have to look at what's the gift in this, and then really appreciate that if you hadn't had the failure, you wouldn't have had the challenge. You wouldn't have had to grow, had to develop, had to be innovative or whatever it is. And they really are gifts. So my farming career is full of, well, I won't say failures, I'll just call them learnings.
These are the learnings, and this then you go your way step by step, but it's not driven by, let's say, a clear view to the future. It's more driven by a kind of general vision, and then you do the steps, and then you make your lessons learned. And in this way, it's the will quality of our which is engaged and which is going in front, and the understanding comes behind. And I think this is a wonderful way to do it.
Tell me about the three soils. I really liked hearing about your three soils concept. Can you kind of run us through those? I think it's great. I love the way you put that together.
Yeah. Well, it's not a concept I have worked out in a profound way. It came up in a sharing with Jane and Michelle. They invited me to Australia and New Zealand, and all of a sudden it was in the room, and I picked it up. So it's not a thing I'm turning around the globe with a concept already done. But in some way, it's, I would say, a kind of approach to the overall situation we are in. We are in this. It shows as a kind of crisis. One can say challenges. One can say things we have to really tackle, and we have this ecological issue, crisis, and this is the ecological soil. It's all about building soil fertility. I mean, this is the key to all. And we know via biodynamics that to do so, we have to involve the plant life and the animal life, and we have to shape an overall farm organism. but this conducts then in deeper biodynamics. And then we have this social crisis. I mean, we don't know how to behave together in order to be capable to live together on this earth, neither in the different countries or regions or, let's say, branches, neither in the geopolitical sense. We are in a mess. We know all about, we are so connected, let's say, by all this internet technique, but it becomes worse and worse. And how can we build up a soil fertility in the social way? This is the second dimension. And one has really to have a clear look to it. And then we have also a kind of crisis in the meaning of our lives, of our societies. We have a kind of emptiness for many, many people, and a kind of isolation, and a kind of, not knowing where I am and what is my task. And this is the inner, let's say, soil also, where to overcome this kind of crisis, I think we have a spiritual and cultural issue all over the world, but specifically for each one. And the key, therefore, to work is not, let's say, other than to develop an inner culture, an inner soil. So these are the three soils. They are hands-on. I would say each one is in and can do something, and in the same time, they are kind of, the big challenges of our time.
Let's stick with soil and biodynamics. How does Europe, a much older culture than our pretty young Australian culture, what does Europe, agriculture in Europe and the biodynamic world over there, view Australian biodynamics? We're quite pragmatic and practical people and resourceful. Not to say that European farmers aren't, but how do you view us all over here?
Can you formulate it again? What is?
Yeah. How does the European biodynamic sort of world look at Australian biodynamics? We're very new, essentially. To agriculture, So and you'll be out here soon, so you'll get a big dose of us again soon.
Yeah. Well, when I entered in the 80s in the biodynamic movement, we heard that the biggest area biodynamically farmed is in Australia. And this was a kind of, Australia was best. And this was, let's say, the engagement of Alex Podolinsky. And further on, then I met him, and we have then, connected to this personality, which has been very inspiring and great, let's say, by, for example, looking to soil and evolving, developing, inventing, let's say, a biodynamic approach which is really for improving soil fertility on this very dry and very extended areas. And in the same time, we also then realized that for the social soil, he was not so easy going. It was very difficult to come to an agreement with him, and at the end it was not even possible. When Demeter International has been founded, it has been sadly without Alex, and in this way without Australia. And this remained like this until now. There has been other associations in Australia Hamish and with other people. And it was always a kind of sadness from our side that, this very big, let's say, potential, which could be for biodynamics, regenerative, and all this kind of healthy way to farm, that this has been a kind of disconnection. And in this way, I look to my coming to Australia to a kind of big potential. I would say the future can be in your hands, guys, in your hands, because you have the areas and you have this kind seems that when someone takes initiative, then there is perhaps less obstacles and less struggles than in our regions and in our societies. But seems that it's not easy to collaborate among different streams in your country, in your situation. And I hope this is a big and deep wish for me, that my coming could perhaps help to see the others in a new light, and in the light of the 100 years of the agricultural course, because there has been only one, we have all the same roots. So let's join after 100 years also in the actual way to work and to really realize the potential which lies in your regions and in your way to do. So this is a little bit how I look from my side to the Australian situation, hoping that we can bring streams together, because we realize there is one source, there is one agricultural course, there has been one Rudolf Steiner, and let's be diverse, but not conflictual. Let's be diverse in a way that we enjoy that the other one has another approach, and diversity, to be united in diversity. I would say this is a little bit what we are striving for in the worldwide biodynamic movement, and I hope that I can bring this spirit to Australia and that we can have some moments together where we can feel this.
Because there's not enough of us for there to be conflict or dissension, is there? Like, we need just for the production of good food, for the community, for the dynamics of farmers and in good food production. Like, there's not enough of us to be divided, is there? Like, we need to stick together. So I absolutely agree. I'm thrilled you're coming out. Let's talk about the tour. So you're doing quite a number of engagements in the east coast of Australia. So you're in Adelaide, I think Melbourne, Brisbane, Sydney. I think you're going to Tasmania. You sound like a rock star. I guess you are a bit of a biodynamic rock star. Is that fair to say, Ueli?
They make me to be.
Are you comfortable with that?
But the tour has absolutely been shaped by Mark and Jane, and I'm just following their tour, how they organized it, and I'm very happy that in this very short time I can be on these very different places, and I hope that we have gatherings where really sometimes perhaps more with anthroposophy, sometimes perhaps more with practical biodynamics, and sometimes perhaps more even with scientists, that we can explore the dimensions of biodynamics and bring it in a way that it's also a version of regenerative, because this is the modern term, and the young people are engaged and inspired for regenerative. And I think even it's not so much defined what it is. Let's be open and let's try to see the future based on our 100 years history. But yeah, we would like to be, as a biodynamic movement, a partner for the future regenerative stream, and not an old-fashioned community which is closed in itself.
Let's talk about the next 100 years, because you're coming out in the centenary year of the release, or at least the publication of the agriculture lectures in 1924. So that's quite a milestone. However, I'm also interested in what you think. What do we need to do in the next 100 years? What are some of the activities, the behaviours, the attitudes, the initiatives that we need to be seriously striving for? What impulses do we need to have in the next 100 years?
Well, nobody can see for 100 years, so it's a kind of vision. It's not concrete. And I think we have to go public. We have had now 100 years of, let's say, elaborating what has been a seed corn by the 8 lectures of Steiner in 1924. It's like a seed corn. And now the seedlings are grown. And now we have to grow them for forests. Yeah, we have really to, and in this way, it's always driven by people. Yeah, we speak about hectares, we speak about turnover of diameter, but what is behind are always engaged and inspired people. So what we have to do is to inspire people. And these people, they coming new to the biodynamic impulse, they will bring their contribution. Yeah. So let's try to speak and to do a work and to speak words which can be heard by the young people and by the people, let's say, who are perhaps, by their social background, they have to do a big jump, to go in. So, for example, I'm engaged in Egypt. There is a wonderful initiative. It's called SECEM. And it has been founded by an Egyptian, but he has been for 20 years in Europe, has found anthroposophy, went back, and his vision has been to do something for this country. And this SECEM initiative grew, is really a lighthouse for many, many people. And now more and more Egyptian people, they take responsibility. Yeah? And we there give courses and we train the young people. And to train now the young Egyptian woman and young man, it's another world which we encounter. Yeah, they came from a Muslim background, they come from this kind of traditional family background, but it's up to them. Yeah, there are more than 100 billion people now in Egypt. They have desert, and just the Nile. And they have to invent a new agriculture for the Nile soils and for the desert soils. And it's up to them. But we can try to bring new ideas, biodynamic ideas to them, and then they have to go on in the next 100 years. So a vision is that, for example, Egypt becomes 100% of organic or biodynamic. And SECEM is working for this, and this is a biodynamic background. And this is a model. And we have some of these models also in Latin America. We have some in India. And in this way, I really hope that with the new destinal forces of the young people from all different countries, religions, and in different climates, we can make, let's say, quite a substantial contribution in order that we can live together as humanity with this earth, with this living being of earth for the time we need, and that we can do it in a way that also food, which comes out, and fibers and other products, they are in a way healthy that our bodies, our constructions, our clothes, our houses can help us to bring our, let's say, spiritual mission to the earth, and not only be, let's say, earthly healthy, but also in a spiritual way healthy, because this is clear for me that the responsibility for what's going on earth and even a little bit in heaven, it's on our side. It's not longer with the spiritual, let's say, guidance. It's handed over to us, and I hope that we can, and this is my vision for the next 100 years, that we can be many, and that we can be very different, and that we can make out of model initiatives a kind of influence to the all over situation of being stewards of the earth in a very responsible way.
Who do you see and hear are joining the biodynamic movement? Who's actually, is it young people? Is it old farmers? Is it people who aren't farming at all? Do you get a sense of who's adopting it? You know, I have a sense of it in Australia, but I'm interested to see what you're seeing in Europe. You know, what is the succession plan of biodynamics in Europe? You know, who's adopting it, and who can we rely on now to pick it up and take it through the next 100 years?
Yeah, it's not so clear. When you would have asked me 4 years ago, we have had many, many young people on the farms, and they came to the farms because they are looking for deeper meaning of life. Yeah? So I think we have a societal responsibility, because the people, they come to our farms, the young people, they are not only, and not all of them, for professional farming. They are looking for a kind of basic orientation in their life, and they are attracted by our places which we farm. Now, the last 4 years with Corona, with the war we have in Ukraine, and now the new situation also in Israel and Palestine, things are shaked, and it's not so clear actually. And our training courses in Europe, they don't run so well as before. So we are just in the orientation phase, and frankly spoken, I'm not so clear actually how this will be done. Perhaps we have to go through a crisis, not sure, but could be, so that we don't have enough young people to go on with the farms we already have and to bring up new farms. It's just a situation actually where Europe is not knowing where to go. This is actually very deeply the atmosphere in Europe. How to shape the future, not clear, and it takes all branches and all levels of life, actually. We have heavy protests of farmers in Berlin, in Paris, in all countries, even in Switzerland. they are going with their big tractors to the cities and blocking the traffic and so on. And when you ask them, but what is your request? They don't know. It's just, it can't go further on like this. And then it comes out that they need more financial support and so on. But this is not the base. So there is a profound, let's say, questioning of how to go in the future. And the farmers are just the ones who expressed it the most clearly, but other branches are affected too. So I would say actually question. And this is with our 100 year situation. So let's take it as a chance. Let's say we don't know, we have to search. Let's investigate and let's be open. What is calling to us? Yeah.
And I guess Hamish Mackay pretty well, I understand, and you may know that Hamish and I teamed together to run.
I have seen you have.
Yeah. I was speaking with Hamish today, getting a bit of intel on you, Ueli. I was just going, tell me about this man. And he did, and Hamish in such a wonderful way. He did mention the concept of a movement has a lifespan, and 100 years in the life of a movement is 1 year. If we sort of translate that to the lifetime of a person, that's kind of where we're up to, which is fascinating. I think so we are. That's kind of scary, but it's kind of exciting that we're at the beginning of the life of biodynamics, and at the same time, would it be fair to say we are vulnerable, we are dependent, we are a 2-year-old?
Yep.
We're not. Well, we're only just one. What are your thoughts on that and Hamish's kind of concept? Well, it's probably not his concept, but certainly the way he expressed it.
Yeah. I think I go in the same direction. 100 years is long because it's 4 generations. And at the same time, it's very short. Because for a new cultural impulse, I consider anthroposophy and biodynamics as a new impulse, really in the bigger sense. And 100 years is just short. We are just at the end of the starting phase, let's say like this. And we are not done. We are not evolved. We have, let's say the seed has came out and we have the first leaves and we have a kind of very, vulnerable situation. And it's not sure that we will overcome this very situation. And then is the question, okay, how can we deal with the situation when we see it like this? Yeah? And so we have to widen and to our perspective. And I would say here we come back with the 3 soils. We have to build up a soil in ourselves now, our generation. I am 63. I mean, I have 10 years more, and then it's done more or less my active time. So I'm at the end even of my practical work. I can now help a little bit with networking and inspiring and so on. But we have to create a soil in the movement and in ourselves in a way to say the evolution goes through centuries. So let's be quiet even we have perhaps for a short time a crisis, and in the same time as a kind of polarity to this calmness, I would call it, to create an even deeper engagement, knowing that nothing will come by itself. It really has to be taken by some group of peoples in the very countries in order that it goes the next step, because 100 years is a threshold. And we came to it, and it's great. And we have to be absolutely grateful and thankful to the pioneers. We are standing on her shoulders. And in the same times, it's like a second starting point. It's up to us to be again pioneers and to bring it one step further. And in this sense, be calm, because it's more than one lifetime a cultural impulse needs to really establish. And let's be deeply engaged, and let's, by this engagement, even, or let's say us now, as in the second half of our lives, we don't have these juvenile forces in our hands and in our arms. We have them perhaps more in our souls. So let's turn it in a way that we really open up in order to be able to see what is coming. And the what will be specifically, I would say, persons. Let's open up to the persons, to the personalities, to the people who join. They are the one who will do the future. So let's embrace them, and and they will be not ideal, they will be not as we hope that they are. So it's up to us to make this gesture of openness.
And make everyone feel welcome. That's the way I do it. Let's get to your tour, the Grand Tour of Australia, because I got some your first engagement, just for listeners who would be interested to track you down and listen and follow you around. 7th of May, you're going to be in Melbourne, then Hobart, and Sydney and Brisbane and Adelaide, and then so you're here from about the 7th to the 15th, or it might be the 17th. You're here for about 10 days, I understand, aren't you? Which is great. Are you? What I am interested in? Are you going to get some time to get to? Because I see some of your venues are schools, colleges. There's a bookshop. There's a few venues that are yet to be announced. Are you getting to any farms to sort of experience firsthand? You've probably been to Australian farms before, no doubt, but are you getting to any this tour this time?
I hope so, but it's really in the hands of the organizers. But I hope even it's late autumn in Australia when I'm there. It's corresponding to November so harvests are done and life is going back. But I hope deeply that I can also visit really farm operations, meaning how it works. I'm very interested and so also on the economical side of farming in the conditions you are in, how this works. How can you do between the costs and the income in a way that you can go on year by year? And how is it possible in these conditions to do a kind of surplus in order to build up soil fertility or the crops or, let's say, the herds of the animals you have and so on? This for me would be very, very interesting. And the tour in the towns and in the city, it's also organized by the Anthroposophical Society. So it's not only for biodynamics, it's also the 100 years of the Anthroposophical Society. And as I'm in the board here at the Goetheanum of the Anthroposophical Society, I will also try to address people who come more from this side. And it's even perhaps, more difficult in our days to be, let's say, a carrier of the anthroposophical impulse because it's not so hands-on as the biodynamic one. And I think, but as a kind of, ferment for the overall societal situation, it's important that in the various towns, cities, countries, regions, we are some people who are, let's say, open-minded for a dimension of humanity which is not only, let's say, hold by, let's say, materialistic striving, which is fine, but which is not bright enough. And in this way, I will also help or try to help to have a kind of, renewed, inspired gatherings for anthroposophic engaged people.
Well,
but hopefully I can have access to farms. Yeah.
Well,
can we visit your farm? Can we visit your farm?
You're most welcome to. I don't know. Looking at your schedule, it looks pretty tight. The invitation is always here. If it's not this time, then certainly if you are lined up to come back again anytime, then keep us in mind. We'd love to have to host you here. And I wish you all the very best for your I guess a mission in a way. You're on a bit of a mission to bind the goodwill and the good intention of Australian farmers and biodynamic farmers and anthroposophical community in a way that would create a wonderful impulse for the next 100 years. So I'm going to do my best to try and track you down. There's a few places I'll try and intercept you, hopefully. I really appreciate your time. I'm conscious that we did start a bit late. I did just want to give a plug for Hamish, who, as I said, well. We do a lot of work together. I always learn something from him every time we run a workshop. I just call him a freak because the way he can formulate potentially complex concepts into very understandable, simple explanations and anecdotes and practical ways is a real gift, and it's a really honoured and grateful to be working with him.
Yeah.
Hopefully, when you come out or I go to Europe, well, certainly if you come back out here, let's the three of us, Hamish and I, and you get together and do something cool. And when I get to Europe, I'd love to drop in and say good day at some point as well. Lee, I've loved having the chat with you. A quick plug for our workshops. We are having one here at Burrawa. This is for our listeners in May, and there are others that we're going to put together throughout the year. So please keep in listeners get on our website and check it out when they're up there. I'm conscious that it's now 10:15 in Switzerland. You have a lovely spring to go and enjoy, no doubt. Is the ice melted on the mountains? When does the ice sort of disappear?
Yeah. It's actually happening on Easter weekend. There has been very, very heavy snow coming down, and now we will have a very warm period. So it's melting. You can see it. Yeah, each day the snow limit is going up. Yeah, actually it's on perhaps 1,700 meters. I'm here actually sitting on 1,500 meters sea level high. And just when the snow is gone, you have then the green of the meadows coming in. It's a wonderful situation.
Well, I look forward to seeing that one day, Ueli, and thank you for your time. You enjoy the rest of your day and your week, and we'll let you know when this is out, and looking forward to your Rockstar tour of Australia in a month's time or so.
Yeah, thank you so much. I hope that, people can hear what we shared, and I'm very much looking forward to my tour to Australia. Already thanking for the invitation, and let's encounter then. It will be soon, in 3 weeks' time already it happens. See you, have a good day or night in your case. And see you again.
I want to go and have some dinner. Thanks.
This podcast is produced by Rhys Jones at Jaeger Media. If you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to subscribe, share, rate and review. For more episode information, please head over to www.charliearnott.com.au.